Now, a 10% quota in jobs and education for people from general category who belong to the economically weaker section has now become a possibility, a reality in the country. It has been passed in both the houses, in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, and only needs a president's assent and his consent to become a law. But will it pass legal scrutiny, as many such bills in the past have been struck down by the court? And does it have a direct impact on the ground? Remember, the opposition has called it a major political stunt meant to reap benefits from the upper caste in the upcoming national election. So, on Chai Pe Charcha today, Saurabh Gupta, beg your pardon, is on the ground and speaking with people to try and find out what their sentiment on the bill is.
Well, thank you, Sonal. You know, everybody's morning cup of tea and the discussion that revolves around it would perhaps be this quota that the government has announced. The government has described it as a sixer in the slog overs before the 2019 elections. But what is the political impact? How are people looking at it? And to discuss that, we have some people with opposing views, of course, on this matter. Parikshit, to you first. The government says it's a sixer. You think politically it will reap dividends for the BJP?
Saurabh, I don't know politically, but as a common man, I definitely think this is a landmark bill. It affects a large section of the society. Almost 24 crores youth of this country are going to be affected by it. A large section which was, seemingly backward because of their economic, condition. Those get a representation in the government now. I don't think there could be a bigger, inclusive bill in the last 10 years or 5 years we have seen of. So I think it's a good thing.
He says it's inclusive. You agree? Because one of the things that the opposition has been saying is that it's not well thought out. Will it stand legal scrutiny? What is the data that you have? Kapil Sibal debating in the Rajya Sabha yesterday did bring up those points. Do you think it will stand legal scrutiny?
Well, I doubt. But the thing is, a trend that we have observed from this government is that we saw that during demonetization. There's no prior data, no prior research. We don't know who are the people that this government is going to target. Is there any report? Is there any commission that has presented a report? Now they say 8 lakh rupees per annum is the amount, and below that you will be economically backward. I mean, how many people are going to get? How will this give rise to someone producing fake documents? Another ridiculous argument I feel is that the argument of having less than 5 acres of land. We all know that a particular farming family in India, when it if it's owing, let's say 25 acres of land, and when you have the land gets divided to its sons. So if they have 5 sons, they have 5 acres of each, 5 acres of land each. So in this case, what's going to happen? So there is no research, there is no clarity on it. Okay. And secondly, the constitution says that reservations are for people who are socially backward, and they are not for economically backwards. How are you going to tackle this? Right. That's the biggest challenge.
There's a legal aspect to it. There's the aspect of whether there's prior research or not. As young people who are about to step into, say, looking for jobs and who are going to be entering the workforce as fresh graduates, what is your take on the quota?
As we know, the very premise of reservations in the Constitution is based on social backwardness and not economic backwardness. While we can't deny that people who are economically deprived, there's great distress among these classes right now, but there's been no discussion. There's no mutual engagement with even between the two parties in the Lok Sabha. It's just very arbitrary to introduce a bill like this and pass it within 2 days in both the houses. And I'd also like to say that the Congress and other parties, they can't really occupy the moral high ground, because there have been instances in the past where the Congress introduced a reservation bill for the economically deprived classes back in 2008. Yeah. The left government did it in 2008 again in Kerala. Yeah.
So everybody's been sort of wishy-washy on this issue. I'd like to ask you, the whole argument has also been, when it comes to quotas that are existing already, that there is a creamy layer. And perhaps if you now want to bring in a quota for the economically, I'm not saying for the existing quotas, but for the quotas that the government is introducing for the general category of economically backward sections, it somewhat negates that argument of a creamy layer
First, when we pay income tax, that's about 2.5 lakhs per year. So then, how can you give a quota to those people who are earning hardly 8 lakh per annum? But you say that you have to pay income tax too. It's kind of it is contradictory, and this reservation is almost getting 95% of the citizens of India under this quota. So what kind of reservation when it is majority here?
All right. So yeah, reservation. What kind of reservation if it involves the entire majority? Parikshit, coming back to you. The argument also that you were making is that it is a well thought out move, given the climate of elections, given 2019. The government itself describes it as a sixer in the slog overs. But how can can you depend on these sixers all the time, or does it have to be like a well planned, let's say, a Dravid innings?
I think it's a Dravid-like bill. I'll tell you why. Because the scenario in India is every 3 months, every 6 months you have an election. Had it been brought before the 3 states, you would have said, oh, it's going to impact some state. Had it been brought at the beginning of 2018, you would have said, oh, it's going to impact the Karnataka election. Yeah. So there's no end to it. I mean, there has to be some time or the other where you have to bring in a legislation. Someone said, oh, GST has been brought in because Gujarat pe focus kar rahe the. Gujarat ko soch ke the rates were down. I mean, so legislation and politics can't go together. And as far as politically reaping the dividends or benefits of it is concerned, it is for the people to decide. Let the people decide what is best for them. Has this legislation convinced them that the Modi government should be coming back? And just to clarify a few points, a lot of opposition has been throwing out a lot of questions. But the fact that they have supported this bill in Parliament unanimously, it shows that it is a bill that is...
Nobody wants to actually get on the wrong side of, politically
but it is going to help everyone. Yes. Forget politically, but it's going to help everyone. No one wants to be seen as an anti-people or anti-poor. Right. There's a reason, this bill is supported by everyone in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha.
Yeah, let's be honest. I think, the point raised again that, nobody wants to be seen as opposing this quota, because you don't want to alienate any section of voters before 2019. Last comments.
So I think this bill also comes at a background of an acute rural distress that we see in the country. We saw that in the results of the elections as well. So if you see in the past 4 years or so, the debate of Marathas in Maharashtra, Patels in Gujarat,
or even more recently the sugarcane crisis in Maharashtra. Again, all of
these debate has come up in the past 4.5 years particularly. One of the reasons is a lack of rise in incomes of rural India, and that is Arvind Subramaniam has mentioned that in the economic report as well, economic survey as well. So I think that's the reason these demands are coming up, and they might scale up as well in the coming days.
So it's very clear that no political party would want to be seen on the wrong side of this. Yes, it's the major topic of discussion. Is it really a political sixer like the government describes it, or is it a move that will genuinely help people in achieving their aspirations in the background of the kind of distress we've seen, especially among the rural communities in Maharashtra? In an election year, all these questions will come up. As we go on towards 2019, perhaps this morning's discussion will be on those quotas as people, go in for their morning cup of chai.